روز 16 اسفند ماه 1395 نشست جانبی 34مین جلسه شورای حقوق بشر سازمان ملل متحد در شهر ژنو سوئیس با مدیریت دکتر حسن نایب هاشم از سازمان حقوق بشری سودویند برگزار شد.
So unfortunately 1 year has passed and we've gathered again here this year to speak about the situation of human rights in Iran. And I think like every year we hope that we won't be here next year to talk about this issue. One of the most obvious forms of persecution in Iran is the treatment of religious minorities. I won't get into too much detail about other forms of persecution, which really involves many different groups in Iran, but rather focus on religious minorities. And this persecution can be seen.
در این نشست نیما حسابیان به عنوان نماینده نوکیشان مسیحی، رضا امیری به عنوان نماینده هموطنان اهل تسنن، سیمین فهندش نماینده هموطنان بهایی در سازمان ملل متحد، شعله زمینی محقق در امور زنان و تبعیضهای مذهبی و سهیلا هادیپور نماینده انجمن جهانی پاسداشت حقوق بشر شرکت داشتند.
با بررسی کارنامه جمهوری اسلامی و دولت‌های آن از آغاز تا کنون به راحتی دریافت خواهیم کرد که نه تنها حقوق مسلم و قانونی عموم مردم از شهروندان عادی گرفته تا اقوام و طبقات اجتماعی و گروه‌های مختلف سیاسی و مذهبی رعایت نشده، بلکه به صورت سیستماتیک نقض می‌شود و از جمله قربانیان این قانون شکنی‌ها تبعیض‌ها اهل سنت هستند. پس از روی کار آمدن جمهوری اسلامی قرار بود دین و زبان، قوم، رنگ و طبقه اجتماعی امتیاز نباشد و حکومت اسلامی برآمده از موضع طبقاتی و سلطه‌گری فردی و یا گروهی نباشد و حاکمیت حق برای نوع انسان باشد. از شعارهای به ویژه آقای خمینی و روحانیانی که قدرت را به دست گرفته بودند نفی هر گونه ستمگری و ستمکشی و سلطه‌گری و سلطه‌پذیری و محو هر گونه استبداد و خودکامگی بود. قانون اساسی فعلی ایران در تاریخ 12 فروردین 1358 از طریق رفراندوم به تصویب مردم رسید. این قانون
رضا امیری، سیمین فهندش و نیما حسابیان گزارش‌های خود را از نقض مستمر حقوق هموطنان اهل تسنن، بهایی و نوکیشان مسیحی ارائه دادند.
Iran, which is the most persecuted religious group in the world today, the answer in terms of sheer number and sheer horror must surprise you. It's Christians, especially Christians living in the Middle East. I'm not talking about Christmas status harassment. I'm talking about know your place or we are going to kill you. 5 countries out of the top 10 countries in the open door world watch list that have the extreme level of persecution are Middle Eastern countries. However, Christians often preceded followers of other religions by centuries in this region.
شعله زمینی به شرایط وخیم زنان زیر سلطه آپارتاید مذهبی در ایران پرداخت و تبعیض‌هایی را که بر زنان ایران به واسطه عقایدشان بر آنها تحمیل می شود را مورد بررسی قرار داد.
My name is Shole Zamini. I am from a representative of Verein Sudwind Entwicklungspolitik. We are here since the 14th session of Human Rights Council and try to bring different aspects of human rights violations in Iran. I have worked especially on the situation of women in Iran, and we can name many women and mothers from Baha'i faith who are already right now in prison because of their beliefs only. The same goes to women who has converted to Christianity. Still being a man in prison is totally different than being a woman in prison. When you have children, especially small children, that are outside and growing up without you as a mother, and the mothers who has done nothing to be in jail, so only believing on a religion that is not confirmed by the government. So
سپس سهیلا هادیپور، نماینده انجمن جهانی پاسداشت حقوق بشر، گزارش خود را که در مورد وضعیت اسفبار قوه قضاییه و افشاگری‌هایی که در طول 1 سال گذشته در ارتباط با این قوه صورت گرفته اختصاص داده بود، ارائه کرد. در اینجا توجه شما را به مشروح گزارش سهیلا هادیپور، نماینده انجمن جهانی پاسداشت حقوق بشر جلب می‌نمایم.
سهیلا هادیپور.
سلام به حضار محترم و با تشکر فراوان از سودویند برای فرصتی که در اختیار انجمن جهانی پاسداشت حقوق بشر در ایران دادم. در نشست‌های قبل بیشتر به پرونده‌های خاص و موردهای نقض حقوق بشر در ایران می‌پرداختم. ولی در این جلسه سعی می‌کنم گزارش کوتاهی از وضعیت اسفبار قوه قضاییه در ایران را ارائه دهم تا بیشتر با ریشه نقض حقوق شهروندان ایرانی آشنا گردیم. به گفته چرچیل و دیگر بزرگان در مورد کشورداری، اگر اکثر نهادها در کشور فاسد باشند ولی قوه قضاییه سالم باشد، قطعاً امید به اصلاح آن نظام می باشد. اما اگر قوه قضاییه فاسد باشد، دیگر امیدی به اصلاح نیست. متاسفانه نمونه‌ها و موارد مشخص و بیشماری موجود است که نشان می‌دهد قوه قضاییه ایران یک نهاد کاملاً فاسد و وابسته به نهادهای امنیتی زیرزمینی میباشد. به علت فساد نهادینه شده در سراسر این قوه، تنها به ابزاری در دست گروه‌های مختلف مافیایی در ایران تبدیل شده است. برای روشن شدن این مطلب چند نمونه از افشاگری‌هایی را که در همین 1 سال گذشته در ارتباط با قوه قضاییه صورت گرفت را عرض می‌کنم. به عنوان اولین مورد می شود از فایل صوتی جلسه آیت الله منتظری با اعضای هیئت مرگ در تابستان 1367 یاد کرد. در آن فایل صوتی آیت الله منتظری به عنوان شخص دوم مملکت خطاب به اعضای هیئت مرگ اعدام زندانیان سیاسی بدون انجام دادگاه یا حداکثر دادگاه‌های 3 دقیقه‌ای صحرایی را جنایت علیه بشریت خواند و گفت در تاریخ از شما به عنوان جنایتکار یاد خواهند کرد. پس از انتشار این فایل در سال گذشته، واکنش قوه قضاییه بسیار مهم بود، زیرا پس از آنکه وزیر دادگستری این جنایات را حکم خدا دانست و گفت ما به اجرای این اعدام‌ها افتخار می‌کنیم، قوه قضاییه نیز با تایید تمام و کمال آن اعدام‌ها احمد منتظری فرزند آیت الله منتظری را که انتشار دهنده فایل صوتی بود محاکمه و به 21 سال زندان محکوم کرد. شایان ذکر است چند روز پیش ایشان را بازداشت کردند که البته با فشار رسانه‌های مستقل و تنی چند از مراجع آزاد شد. 1 روز پس از این ماجرا مشخص شد که حتی رهبر نظام نیز با بازداشت احمد منتظری مخالف بوده است. بر اساس این شواهد روشن شد که قوه قضاییه کاملا زیر نظر و با دستور ابراهیم رئیسی یکی از اعضای هیئت مرگ در تابستان 67 اداره می شود. این بدین معناست که قوه قضاییه ایران امروز در دست همان کسانی است که بیش از 30,000 زندانی سیاسی را در تابستان 67 قتل عام کردند. نمونه دیگر را میتوان به تجاوز جنسی سعید طوسی، قاری قرآن محبوب رهبر نظام و برخورد قوه قضاییه با آن اختصاص داد. طبق گزارش‌هایی که تاکنون داده شده، سعید گندم نژاد طوسی به 19 کودک که برای فراگیری قرآن به نزد او رفته بودند تجاوز جنسی کرده است. از آنجا که او از نزدیکان رهبر نظام و از وابستگان به دایره ابراهیم رئیسی در خراسان می باشد، پرونده او را بایگانی کردند و از روند دادرسی جلوگیری به عمل آمده است. در این ارتباط قوه قضاییه نه تنها گوش شنوایی برای شنیدن فریاد شاکیان و کودکانی که به آنها تجاوز شده است نداشته است، بلکه در فکر تبرئه سعید طوسی نیز بوده است و برخورد شدید با قربانیان و شاکیان. به عبارتی قوه قضاییه ابزاری است در دست تجاوزگران. نمونه دیگر برخورد قوه قضاییه با متهم شماره 1 جنایات و تجاوزات کهریزک است، یعنی سعید مرتضوی. در جریان کهریزک و با فرمانهایی که از سوی سعید مرتضوی صادر شد، انسانهای زیادی مورد تجاوز قرار گرفته و یا جان باختند. در کمال ناباوری شاهدیم که سعید مرتضوی از تمام اتهامات مرتکب شده در کهریزک توسط قوه قضاییه تبرئه می شود. در نقطه مقابل می شود به رفتار و برخورد قوه قضاییه با دکتر محمد علی طاهری، آیت الله نکونام، نرگس محمدی، عبدالفتاح سلطانی، آرش صادقی، میرحسین موسوی، زهرا رهنورد، مهدی کروبی و هزاران زندانی سیاسی بیگناه دیگر اشاره کرد. بیش از 1 سال از پایان حکم زندان آقای طاهری می‌گذرد و بیش از 8 ماه از قرار منع تعقیبی که همین قوه قضاییه برای ایشان صادر کرده است، اما همچنان ایشان را کاملا غیر قانونی در انفرادی زندان نگه داشتند و آزادش نمی‌کنند. شایان ذکر است که او را دوباره به دلیل اتهامات واهی پیشین علیرغم قرار منع تعقیب به دادگاه فراخواندند و با به راه اندازی شوهای تلویزیونی سعی در تخریب او و جهانبینی صلح‌آمیزش دارند. اکنون 7 سال است که آقای موسوی و کروبی و خانم رهنورد را بدون محاکمه در حبس نگاه داشتند. جان آرش صادقی در خطر است و با اینکه پزشکان زندان میگویند او بایستی در بیمارستان بستری شود، ولی قوه قضاییه اجازه انتقال آرش را به بیمارستان نمیدهد. آیت الله نکونام تنها به صرف اینکه تعریفی صلح‌جویانه و عرفانی از اسلام ارائه می‌دهد، سال‌هاست در زندان است و موارد بسیار زیاد دیگر که همگی حاکی از این است که قوه قضاییه در ایران ابزاری است در دست قاتلان، شکنجه‌گران و تجاوزگران. موردی را که در آخر می‌خواهم به آن اشاره کنم به رئیس این قوه مربوط می‌شود، یعنی صادق لاریجانی. اخیراً شاهد بودیم که رسانه دور تیوی پرده از 63 حساب شخصی رئیس این قوه برداشت و افشا کرد که سالهاست پول بیت المال و قوه قضاییه به این 63 حساب شخصی وارد می شود. ریاست این قوه نه تنها از این پولها بهره‌مند شده، بلکه میلیاردها میلیارد سود بانکی این مبالغ نیز به جیب او سرازیر شده است. پس زمانی که چنین شخصی با این ابعاد نجومی از فساد بر کرسی ریاست قوه قضاییه نشسته باشد، چه انتظاری میتوان از این قوه داشت؟ به غیر از این که به عنوان ابزار سرکوب در دست مافیای قدرتمند حوزه مشهد می باشد. به قول رئیس جمهور ایران در اینجا نمک فاسد شده است و وای به روزی که بگندد نمک. آری، امروز در ایران فساد در قوه قضاییه نهادینه شده و مردم نیز امیدشان را نسبت به این قوه از دست دادند و به همین علت می باشد که ما امروز در اینجا گرد هم آمدیم. در آخر درخواست انجمن جهانی پاسداشت حقوق بشر از گزارشگران سازمان ملل و دیگر نهادهای حقوق بشری بین‌المللی این است که به طور جدی قوه قضاییه را زیر فشار قرار داده و خواهان پاسخگویی این قوه به جنایات و فسادهای کلان مرتکب شده در ایران باشند. متشکرم.
Next speaker, Mr. Reza Amiri is our next speaker. He himself is Sunni Muslim, so doesn't belong to Shia but Sunni community of Iran. He's human rights defenders and is going to speak about the situation, discrimination against ethnic and religious minorities in Iranian constitution as well. You can listen to a kind of abbreviation of his speech, a summary of his speech in English at Channel 2. Thank you very much. Mr. Amiri, you have the floor.
ممنون که وقت در اختیار من گذاشتید. با سلام خدمت حضار عزیز. با بررسی کارنامه جمهوری اسلامی و دولت‌های آن از آغاز تا کنون به راحتی دریافت خواهیم کرد که نه تنها حقوق مسلم و قانونی عموم مردم از شهروندان عادی گرفته تا اقوام و طبقات اجتماعی و گروه‌های مختلف سیاسی و مذهبی رعایت نشده، بلکه به صورت سیستماتیک نقض می‌شود و از جمله قربانیان این قانون شکنی‌ها تبعیض‌ها اهل سنت هستند. پس از روی کار آمدن جمهوری اسلامی قرار بود دین و زبان، قوم، رنگ و طبقه اجتماعی امتیاز نباشد و حکومت اسلامی برآمده از موضع طبقاتی و سلطه‌گری فردی و یا گروهی نباشد و حاکمیت حق برای نوع انسان باشد. از شعارهای به ویژه آقای خمینی و روحانیانی که قدرت را به دست گرفته بودند، نفی هر گونه ستمگری و ستمکشی و سلطه‌گری و سلطه‌پذیری و محو هر گونه استبداد و خودکامگی بود. قانون اساسی فعلی ایران در تاریخ 12 فروردین 1358 از طریق رفراندوم به تصویب مردم رسید. این قانون تأمین آزادی‌های مشروع، عدالت، برابری و رفع تبعیض از آحاد مردم را در بخش‌هایی از اصول سوم، 19 و 20 پذیرفته است. اما همه حقوق ناشی از این قانون منوط و موکول به رعایت پیروی از مذهب رسمی کشور یعنی شیعه 12 امامی شده است. اما آنچه در عمل اتفاق افتاده سراسر تبعیض بوده و سلطه‌گری و انحصارطلبی مذهبی و زبانی و فرقه‌ای و قومی درباره اهل سنت ایران که غالبا در نواحی مرزی زندگی می‌کنند و در واقع دو نوع تبعیض را همزمان تجربه می‌کنند: تبعیض مذهبی و فرقه‌ای و نیز تبعیض قومی و زبانی. اما با توجه به اصول مختلف قانون اساسی و اسلامیت نظام، اهل سنت از اقلیت‌های مذهبی به شمار نمی‌آیند، اما امروزه آنها نیز در قلمرو اقلیت مذهبی به حساب می‌آیند و حتی خود را اقلیت مذهبی می‌نامند. اما در قانون اساسی تنها به رسمیت مذهب شیعه اکتفا نکرده، بلکه مقامات عالی نظام یعنی رهبری و ریاست جمهوری را در اصل 115 نیز به شیعیان اختصاص داده است. واقعیت این است که اگر ذکر اسلام به عنوان دین رسمی در قانون اساسی موجه باشد و آن را در آن شرایط گریزناپذیر بدانیم، رسمیت دادن به یک مذهب از مذاهب اسلامی صرفاً به اعتبار خود برتر دانستن و بدتر از آن انحصار مقامات عالی نظام سیاسی به گروه شیعی هم ناقض ملیت است و هم نفی دموکراسی و هم در نهایت در تعارض بنیادین با برخی از اصول قانون اساسی و هم اعلامیه حقوق بشر میباشد. در ماده 18 این اعلامیه به صراحت آمده است که هر انسان محق به داشتن آزادی اندیشه، وجدان، دین هست که این حق را در واقع شامل دگراندیشی و تغییر مذهب، دین و آزادی علنی و آشکار کردن آیین و ابراز عقیده است. اما جمهوری اسلامی ایران نه تنها به قوانین بین‌المللی احترام نمی‌گذارد، بلکه قوانین خود را نیز زیر پا می‌گذارد. در قانون اساسی جمهوری اسلامی در اصل 12 و 13 به این اشاره دارد که با وجود شناختن مذهب شیعه 12 امامی اثناعشری به عنوان مذهب رسمی، مذاهب چهارگانه اهل سنت را هم در کنار دیگر ادیان آسمانی مثل مسیحیت، یهودی، کلمی و زرتشتی از احترام کامل برخوردار هستند و اجازه دارند تا آزادانه مراسم و عبادات خود را انجام دهند. مشاغل قضایی برای همه اقلیت‌های مذهبی منع حقوقی در قانون اساسی دارد، چون در اصل 61 تمامی اعمال قوه قضاییه را طبق مقررات اسلامی مجاز دانسته. انتخاب قاضی نیز بخشی از همین روند را در بر می‌گیرد که در عمل مانع تصدی تمام مشاغل قضایی برای همه اقلیت‌ها شده است. اصول 12 و 13 قانون اساسی با عدم رسمیت همه باورها به استثنای مذهب اکثریت شیعه در عمل برخورداری از پرستشگاه مذهبی و برگزاری آیین‌های مذهبی و تبلیغ مسالمت‌آمیز را از پیروان سایر مذاهب و آیین‌ها به کلی سلب نموده است. این هم سبب تخریب تمامی اماکن مورد احترام آیین بهائیت، برخی از مکانهای مقدس زرتشتیان، تخریب حسینیه دراویش در قم، عدم صدور مجوز احداث مسجد برای اهل تسنن در تهران و سایر شهرستان‌ها از جمله این تبعیضات است. این اصل متعارض راه را برای انواع تبعیض و سلطه‌گری علیه اهل سنت ایران باز کرده و عوارض و پیامدهای نامطلوبی را به بار آورده است. در زمان طرح و تصویب قانون اساسی در سال 1358 افرادی چون آقای احمد مفتیزاده از عالمان و متفکران نواندیش سنی در کردستان به شدت و با صراحت با این اصل قانون اساسی مخالفت کرد و اعتراض خود را به گوش دستاندرکاران انقلاب و نظام جدید رساند. او که عضو مجلس بررسی قانون اساسی بود، در اعتراض به این مصوبه از شرکت در مجلس خودداری کرد، اما این کار در نهایت نه تنها سودی نبخشید، بلکه پس از تثبیت اقتدار مرکز نشینان شیعی، آزار سنی‌ها اهم از متحد مذهبی و سیاسی آغاز شد و به پیامدهای منفی زیانباری منتهی شد که هنوز هم ادامه دارد. از پیامدهای رسمی مذهب شیعه اعمال محدودیت‌های گسترده مذهبی در میان اهل سنت شده که نه تنها در قانون اساسی مجوزی برای آنها وجود ندارد، بلکه برخلاف آنها نیز تصریح شده است. هرچند در زمان زمامداری محمد خاتمی و دوران اصلاحات اندکی شرایط بهتر شد، اما حتی در مجلس ششم یعنی مجلس اصلاحات نیز به رغم تلاش اصلاح طلبان امکان برکشیده شدن یک نماینده سنی به عضویت هیئت رئیسه ممکن نشد. دولت تدبیر امید نیز به رغم وعده‌هایش نتوانست تغییر در مدیریت سیاسی و اداری نواحی سنی‌نشین ایجاد کند و اندکی امید بیافریند. غالب مسئولان رده‌های میانی و پایین در مناطق اهل سنت همچنان از شیعیان بومیان یا از شیعیان غیر بومی. در این سالیان دراز نه تنها در مرکز کشور هیچ سنی مذهبی به مقام وزارت، معاونت وزارت، عضو مجمع تشخیص مصلحت نظام و عضویت شورای نگهبان و فرماندهی سپاه و ارتش گمارده نشد، بلکه حتی در نواحی سنی نشین که اکثریت قاطع با اهل سنت است، از جمله در کردستان و سیستان و بلوچستان، هیچ مقام عالی و مهمی در حد استاندار و حتی فرماندار و مدیر کل نیز به آنها اختصاص داده نشده است. در این 4 دهه تبعیض و ناروایی مذهبی تا بدانجا گسترده شد که بارها مساجد و محافل دینی اهل سنت مانند تخریب مسجد شیخ فیض در مشهد و حمله مسجد مکی زاهدان در سال 1372 ویران و یا بسته شد و حتی مراسم خاص مذهبی جز در چارچوب سیاست‌های مشخص و مقرر حکومتی مجاز نیست. آنها در این سالها تلاش فراوان کردند تا در تهران مسجد ویژه خود داشته باشند، اما تا کنون با مخالفت شدید حکومت روبرو بودند. در بسیاری از شهرهای ایران نیز از برگزاری مراسم مذهبی اهل سنت جلوگیری شده و دستاندرکاران آن با دستگیری‌ها و محدودیت‌های گسترده‌ای مواجه می‌شوند. این رخدادهای ریز و درشت به دلایلی از جمله دوری مناطق از مرکز و سیطره فضای امنیتی و اعمال سانسور غالباً در جایی به ویژه در رسانه‌های داخلی و حتی خارجی هم منعکس نمی‌شود. هرچند این نوع برخورد عمدتاً برآمده از نگاه امنیتی حکومت به هر نوع دگراندیش دیگری است و از این رو اختصاص به اهل سنت ندارد.
Thank you very much. So unfortunately 1 year has passed and we've gathered again here this year to speak about the situation of human rights in Iran. And I think like every year we hope that we won't be here next year to talk about this issue. One of the most obvious forms of persecution in Iran is the treatment of religious minorities. I won't get into too much detail about other forms of persecution, which really involves many different groups in Iran, but rather focus on religious minorities. And this persecution can be seen in both law and practice. And actually a central policy of this discrimination was set in the Iranian constitution, which was adopted during the early days of the revolution in December 1979. Article 13 of the constitution states the following: Zoroastrian, Jewish, and Christian Iranians are considered the only recognized religious minorities. They may exercise their religious ceremonies within the limits of the law. They are free to exercise matters of personal status and religious education, and they follow their own rituals. Although these religions are recognized in the constitution, Iranian law often places vague conditions on freedoms that it guarantees, such as within the limits of the law. And because of this, the authorities have imposed in practice many limits to the rights of religious minorities to exercise their religion. For example, conversion to any of the recognized or non-recognized religions is counted as apostasy, and may be punishable by death. Individuals belonging to religious minorities get regularly harassed and discriminated against. Their homes are raided. They face restrictions on their right to association and peaceful assembly and are subjected to threats, detention, and imprisonment. And surprisingly, this persecution also extends to Muslim minorities such as Sunnis as well as Shia clerics who choose to take a different stance than the government regarding the issue of human rights. Then on the other hand, we have non-recognized religious minorities who, not being officially mentioned in the Constitution, are not considered equal before the law and could essentially be seen as judicial non-persons. And this includes the Baha'is and the Baha'i community in Iran, who have faced systematic persecution since the beginning of the revolution. And in those early days, in the 1970s and 1980s, over 200 Baha'is were executed, hundreds more were imprisoned and tortured. Baha'i students were expelled from the country's universities, and Baha'i professors and lecturers dismissed from their positions only because they were Baha'is. In 1980, the government began to dismiss Baha'is from the public sector employment. Thousands were fired from their jobs in public education, government offices, hospitals, and other government institutions. And before being fired, many were asked to convert to Islam and were subsequently dismissed for, quote, having beliefs contrary to Islam after they refused to recant their faith. The ban on Baha'is in the public sector became official in 1981. This prohibition against public employment remains in force today. Once Baha'is had been completely barred from government jobs, attention was then turned to the private sector, where in the 1980s large numbers of companies and factories owned by them were confiscated and closed. Other companies were pressured to dismiss their Baha'i employees, and banks were told to block their accounts. This situation continues today, unfortunately. Both this year and last year, over 90 Baha'i shops were sealed because the Baha'is had closed their shops in observance of their religious holy days. This is while, according to Iranian law, individuals are free to close their shops 15 days a year for personal reasons without being subject to charges. The Baha'is face other acts of persecution, every one of which has significant negative economic consequences, including repeated attacks on their homes and the plundering of their belongings, illegal imprisonment for spurious crimes, and the setting of extremely high amounts for bail, constitutional legal limitations on inheritance among the Baha'is, and efforts to instill fear and insecurity through implementing anti-Baha'i policies. And all of this for the purpose of impoverishing and excluding an entire segment of the population from participation in the economic, cultural, and social life of the community. In a letter written to President Rouhani by the Baha'i International Community in September, the Baha'i International Community called the situation in Iran an economic apartheid, asking President Rouhani and members of the government to think about the damaging effect that the injustices perpetrated against the Baha'is exerts on Iranian society and on the youth of Iran who uphold the principles of equality, dignity, and nobility of all human beings. Unfortunately, although President Rouhani had promised equal citizenship rights and opportunities for all people and fair distribution of wealth to improve living standards of the people, the Baha'is still face relentless economic persecution against them. And aside from economic persecution, as mentioned, the Baha'is face numerous other forms of discrimination. There are currently 90 Baha'is imprisoned in Iran only because they are Baha'is. Young Baha'is are deprived of the right to higher education. They are expelled from universities. They're either not admitted to universities, or if they're admitted, they are expelled as soon as it becomes known that they are Baha'is. And this really takes them the opportunity away from them to both develop their capacities and to contribute to the betterment of Iranian society. Throughout the years, and regardless of the intensity of the persecution against the Baha'is, what has always been clear is that the Baha'is dearly love their country. They try to contribute to the building of a progressive and dynamic society. They believe in the oneness of humanity and the oneness of religion. They regard the fostering of unity to be their moral duty, and despite the severe oppression they endure, they hold no hostility towards any authority or individual. They aim to educate their children so that with reliance on spiritual and material resources, future generations will be enabled to dedicate their lives to the service of humankind and their country. What is urgently needed from the government of Iran is that they create an environment in which the experience of the Baha'i community, as well as other groups and individuals, be used for the progress and advancement of the country. Thank you.
My name is Shole Zamini. I am a representative of Verein Sudwind Entwicklungspolitik. We are here since the 14th session of Human Rights Council and try to bring different aspects of human rights violations in Iran. I have worked especially on the situation of women in Iran, and we can name many women and mothers from Baha'i faith who are already right now in prison because of their beliefs only. The same goes to women who has converted to Christianity, for example. I think that you are going to speak about that issue, so I won't talk about it. But still, being a man in prison is totally different than being a woman in prison. When you have children, especially small children, that are outside and growing up without you as a mother, and the mothers who has done nothing to be in jail, so only believing on a religion that is not confirmed by the government. So what I wanted to say is that because Iran uses a very special interpretation of Islam, then they have brought this interpretation also in all civil and criminal laws of the country. So that means that, for example, early child marriage in Iran is lawful. So we don't have any kind of minimum age of marriage in Iran. Until 9 years of old for girls, 9 years age for girls, they need a special allowance from the court, and then until from 13 years old, no court decision is needed, and in all ages, regardless how old you are, as a woman for your first marriage, you will need the allowance of your father or a guardian man of the family. That could be grandfather, anybody. So the FGM is not in Iran, is not a kind of Shia practice in Iran, but it is practiced also in some parts of Iran. I can't say that this is regardless to Islam or the Islamic interpretation of the government, but there have not been serious exercises against it, so that they stop this kind of practice in Iran too. So people who believe on this issue exercise it without any kind of the government or the state wanting to stop this process in Iran. Violence against women is another issue which is also practiced and is always accused in the name of, it is always justified, not accused, justified because of the Islam, because there are some laws that allow, for example, if a man sees her wife with another man in the bed, he is lawfully allowed to kill both of them, and nobody can say anything. It is the law of the country. So such kind of things are the things that whoever does this kind of honor killings goes back that I had the feeling that she had another relation, and then the kind of sentence that these people become because of honor killing, if it goes to fathers, for example, we have cases that has been in jail only for 6 months after killing his daughter. He said that I didn't want her to have relationship with the person that he had, she had a boyfriend and so, and then after 6 months he was released from jail because he is the guardian of that girl who was 17 years old. So there are different situations that bring the whole society and the whole Iran's community that they are somehow allowed to practice violence against women in the name of religion. But there are also other laws that prevent women to have their responsibilities in the community as women should do it and want to do it. For example, there is the law, the Article 1117 of Civil Code that says that any man can prevent his wife to seek employment in jobs unsuitable for family honor or status. So there is no definition what is unsuitable, what is family honor, and so on. So people can interpret all kind of these laws for themselves so that they can put pressure on women to stay at home and not becoming jobs. So we have also gender discrimination in education, which is also interpreted through Islam. It is also if a woman is married, it is the husband who should allow her to go and continue her studies, unless it is already set at the beginning of marriage that she has the right to continue her studying. But still, if the husband don't want to allow her, she has to go to court to become the possibility to go to continue her education. We have also a law on violent chastity. There is a strategy on that, and the list is really very long. It can go further and further. For example, I don't know if people who are sitting in this room know that for a kind of simple handshaking in Iran between a man and a woman who are not married or have relationship, both of them could become 75 lashes of wiping. So this is the law in the country. And then, as you might all know, we don't have any law on criminalizing violence against women. So not until now, there are always plans to do that. The draft is working. It's in process since around 12 years, but still nothing has been offered to the parliament. So we still don't have such thing. Then we have the discrimination in sport that I have tried to bring this part very much on the notice of this council again. Women are not allowed to take part in many sports, and in all those that they are allowed to take part as sportlers, they have to wear all kind of Islamic dresses. So that means that swimming is banned, bodybuilding is banned, those gymnastics is banned, all those that have other dresses than Islamic dresses, they're banned for women and girls in Iran. And in those that they can somehow wear these Islamic dresses, I don't speak about the hindrance that they have when they do all these sports with Islamic dresses, but then still in those they have also some kind of limitations to practice. For example, we had the chess tournament some 2 weeks ago, and then a woman from Iran who doesn't live in Iran but was in the team of Iran took part without the veil, and they have said that she is going to be stopped from any sport anymore. And there was also a boy a 15-year-old boy who took part as a sport. He was not a woman but a child, and then he began the chase with Israel team, and now he's going to be stopped also from being ever able to take part as Iran team. Mr. نیما حسابیان is one of the people who has converted from Islam to Christianity, and he's going to talk about the persecution of Christians in Iran. He's also a human rights defender living here in Switzerland.
Thank you. Hi everybody, as Ms. Zaman said, I'm Iranian Muslim background, Christian converted, and I live in Switzerland since 2010. I work on voluntary basis in some churches here in Switzerland. And what I'm going to talk to all you today is about a bigger scale of the Christian persecution in the Middle East as we end up with Iran, which is the most persecuted religious group in the world today. The answer in terms of sheer number and sheer horror must surprise you. It's Christians, especially Christians living in the Middle East. I'm not talking about Christmas type of harassment. I'm talking about know your place or we are going to kill you. 5 countries out of the top 10 countries in the Open Door World Watch list that have the extreme level of persecution are Middle Eastern countries. However, Christians often preceded followers of other religions by centuries in this region. The recent massacre and hostility have forced millions of Christians to flee their homes, risking their life during the travel of ending up in the overcrowded refugee camps. Let's take a closer look at this issue. It can tell us a lot about the world we are living in. Middle East is the birthplace of Christianity. Christians there trace their history to the 1st century apostles. A century ago, about 1 in 7 people in Middle East were Christians. Today the figure is less than 1 in 25. And that proportion continues to decline due to years of persecution and discrimination, especially in the last 15 years. In the recent years, Christian communities in Syria and Iraq have suffered the most. ISIS and other extremist movements are leaving a trail of destruction across large parts of Syria and Iraq, with a specific target in their crosshairs: enslaving, killing, and uprooting of Christians. Most of them have been displaced from their homes, and countless others have been tortured by jihadi armies with no end in sight. Islamic State captured Iraq's second largest city, Mosul, in the summer of 2013. From there, it pushed into neighboring villages and towns across the region, known as the Nineveh Plains, the heartland of this once great ancient Assyrian Empire. Much of what took almost 2,000 years to build has been destroyed in a matter of months. Church buildings and many ancient sites were bombed. Christian homes and businesses were marked with a single message: convert, pay tax, or be killed. In June 2016, the United Nations investigators announced that the Islamic State forces have committed genocide and other war crimes against the Yazidi religious minority in Syria and Iraq. The UN report said ISIS has tried to erase the Yazidis' identity by forcing men to choose between either conversion to Islam or death, raping girls as young as 9 years old, selling women to slave markets, and drafting boys to fight. Although in some other Middle Eastern countries no civil war is going on or any terrorist group are active, Christians, especially those with Muslim background, are facing the most severe abuse from hardline Islamic regimes. Take for instance Iran, my homeland. Converting away from Islam to Christianity or any other religion is forbidden, charged with threatening national security, part of a foreign-inspired soft war against society identity and people's religion. In many cases, conversion is considered apostasy, and under the Islamic law, an apostate's life can be taken because his or her life is no longer of value. Soon after the Iranian Revolution in 1979, the government has recognized churches to limit attendance to those who are not from a Muslim background. and to conduct service only in the minority languages, Assyrian or Armenian. Congregations are not allowed to reach out to the Farsi speakers. Churches have been closed down and had leaders arrested or even killed if they refuse to comply with those restrictions. Iranian Ayatollahs have frequently warned against the house church movement, saying that it threatens the Islamic faith and deceives young Muslims. Despite all of these actions, the underground house church have experienced growth. Hundreds of thousands of Iranian citizens have converted to Christianity, and many have been baptized in ceremonies held in private homes across the country. There is no official estimate of how many Muslim background believers have converted to Christianity in Iran, but a 2015 study from St. Mary's University suggests around 500,000 Christians from that perspective living inside the country, as Christianity is reportedly the fastest growing religion in Iran. The number of believers has risen continuously in the last years. In 2013, Hassan Rouhani, a moderate cleric, was elected as the president of Iran, despite his pledge during his election campaign that all ethnicities, all religions, including religious minorities, must have justice. The targeting of Christian converts and other religion minorities for systematic state persecution and prosecution has continued unabated or has even increased under his administration. In fact, the Islamic Republic of Iran is becoming less rather than more tolerant of dissenting voices. According to the UN reports, Ahmad Shahid, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Iran, said, in general, Christian religious practice in Iran is monitored and massively regulated. Authorities often place cameras in churches. The report further stated, when ministers or other visible Christian figures are arrested, they are most often pressed to reveal foreign contacts or financial connections. One of those arrested and imprisoned is Maryam Naqai Zargaran, a school teacher who was involved in an orphanage of Pastor Saeed Abedini, and her conversion to Christianity and her association with the pastor is assumed to have been the trigger for Maryam's arrest. She's serving a 4-year prison sentence for threatening national security by church planting. The same charge Abedini was sentenced to 8 years for. Maryam is suffering from serious health issues and has undertaken 200 strikes to protest against her being denied the medical treatment she required for long-standing health issues. In October 2015 and in June 2016, she was briefly released for treatment, but both times forced to return to prison before it was complete. Religious liberty is precious, yet sadly in short supply in many nations. We need to stand against all advances of any faith persecution. We must fortify the faith we hold dear by encouraging each other and by holding ourselves accountable to the Word of God. And finally, we must not turn a blind eye to those in other countries whose lives are under constant threat because of their faith. Thank you.